Good afternoon, I'm back. So, I wanted to do one more video before IEPs start, and this time I wanted to talk about just some general information about how to lead the IEP meeting. So, a couple months ago, Pam and I went to a meeting at ESU that was conducted by NDE, Nebraska Department of Education, and basically they spent the day telling us, just some different changes and things with special education in general, including documents such as the IEP. And one of the things that they talked about was that they do not really want us going through meetings where we read everything from the IEP word for word. They really are wanting to get us to a place where, since it is a team, we are an IEP team, including the parents, and so therefore we're not doing what we used to in the past where we sat the parents down and we dictated to them what goals we felt were necessary for the student to work on, and we had the IEP all filled out prior to the meeting, and basically we were just doing the parents a favor by sharing that information with them. The parent needs to be part of our team, and therefore they need to drive a lot of the conversation that happens around creating goals. So you'll notice if you watched the first video I did this morning that we didn't really do much with goals or present levels, and there's a reason for that. So they talked about at the meeting doing more of an agenda where you go through the different parts of the IEP, but not really specifically going through it paragraph by paragraph, page by page. So, the agenda that I created, and this is just a sample, we used a modified version of this with one of Michelle's students in an IEP meeting that we had last month, and we thought it went pretty well. If you have any questions about that, then please talk to Michelle or Megan Green because they were both at the meeting. But basically, the agenda looked like this. And so everybody in the meeting got this agenda right away before we started. We did introductions first. We went around the table and introduced ourselves and gave our positions. And then we launched into talking about strengths of the student. And while the bulk of the team was having a conversation about strengths, we had one person who took notes up on a board or an easel or something like that. So for the meeting that we tried this on, I was the note taker, and so I used the dry erase easel and made notes about strengths as the rest of the table discussed them. And then we moved on to concerns, and concerns basically went along the same lines as strengths, where I was writing down concerns that parents had and concerns that speech language had and that classroom teacher had. Anybody at the table who's part of the students' team was welcome to bring up any concerns. After we did concerns, then we prioritized the concerns as far as we had a conversation about what on this list do we really feel is something that we want to focus on and turn into goals. And so we use the parents' help again to come up with 2 or 3 concerns that the parent felt were the most important to work on for the next year. And so we worked for the next few minutes on creating goals based on those concerns. Okay? We kind of talked them out as a group. Megan and I would just shoot out some ideas, like how does this sound? And then, we would get the parents' feedback and stuff like that. And then while this was happening with the goals, I was trying to take some notes about how we wanted those goals to look too, and I think Megan did the same thing, so that we could go back later and really flesh them out and get them done. So then we used those goals that we came up with to go back and do baseline information, which is also your present level of performance, or some of you know it as PLEP. So your PLEP is on page 3, and typically that information is shared. We always shared that information before the goals, but now we're switching it up a little because the present level of performance is their baseline of the stuff that we want them to be working on. So if one of their concerns that we turn into a goal has to do with potty training, then we need to look at our baseline information and our present levels as far as what is this kid doing at home and at school and in the community in the area of potty training right now. What is the child capable of doing? What is the child not capable of doing? We talk about that, we write that information down, and we plug it into page 3 after the meeting. So once all the goals have been done and once the baseline information / PLEP has been done, then we move on to page 6, which is special education services. We give them, we talk about the program placement, where the student will receive the services in the regular preschool classroom for most of the time that they're in there. And then we talk about service time. So we figure out a resource amount of time, and we figure out a speech amount of time. And if the student receives any other services, then that would be the time that we discuss those service times as well. After we do service times and services, then we will talk about accommodations and modifications. If they are necessary, they are not always necessary, but if they are, that is when we will talk about that. And then at that time, too, we would offer transportation and just let parents know that their child does qualify for transportation. So if they're not currently using it and they want to at any point in the future, they just need to let you, the classroom teacher, or their FSA know. Okay? After accommodations and modifications and transportation, then we would move on to the Medicaid form, where you do have the kind of little script of a paragraph that you don't even have to make it up on your own. You don't have to wing it. It's right there. Pull it out, read it to the parents, and parents signs off on the Medicaid form. Then you will go back to page 1 and do the signature page if there are no questions from parents. So again, you're not going to get in trouble for not addressing every single part of the IEP. Quite the opposite. We're getting to a place now where we want to have conversations that include the parent, and we want to have goals that are meaningful to the parents and the families as well as to the students here at school. So this is not something that is mandatory. It is something that is recommended. So I'm not telling you that you as the case manager have to use this agenda. If you really just would rather continue doing IEPs in a way that you already feel comfortable with, then that is totally your call. Pam and I are not making this mandatory because the state has not made it mandatory. But I thought that I would share this way with you because it seems like for some of you, just knowing every page and what you need to say about every single paragraph can be stressful for you. And so I thought this might be a way that it is a little less formal and more inclusive of the parents and the families during this process. So if you want me to help you create an agenda prior to your student's IEP, please let me know. If you want to see, we can't do this before our IEP meetings because the first one is the day after tomorrow. So, or no, actually it is tomorrow. We have a couple tomorrow afternoon and evening. So if at some point you want to see like a video of us actually doing an IEP meeting on the agenda method, let me know, and I'd be happy to videotape one of our meetings where I'm doing the agenda. But unless I have talked to you specifically about a specific student, then you need to plan on being in charge of and leading the IEP meetings. And Um, like I said, I don't care which way you do that, whether you follow the document because you feel more comfortable with that or you do this agenda. But either way, you are in charge. And if you have any questions prior to your students' IEP meetings, then please let me know. Okay? Have a great day.